Hi y'all. So I'm really excited to do this video sharing my experience with going to therapy. And therapy is one of those holy grails. It is probably one of the best things I have ever done for myself in my personal development and overall growth. And I really suggest, if you've never done therapy, to try, to experiment with it, to see if it's something that's helpful. And that's sort of what I'm going to talk about today. My experiences, mainly the 5 W's, who, what, when, where, why, what I got out from it, and the benefits I got from it, and the benefits that you can possibly see from it. One thing I want to preface and say is that, I never wanted to be that person that went to therapy, because I think there is still a very strong stigma attached to going to therapy, and we think that many that do go to therapy are suffering from, mental distress, anxiety, depression. But a lot of it isn't really their own doing. A lot of the times we go to therapy because of certain trauma we've experienced that we realize is crippling our ability to live life with more purpose and fulfillment, and to feel content and satisfied. A lot of the times we go to therapy because we're dealing with other people who have created the trauma in our lives that now we have to fix. So, it's really sad to see that there is still a stigma around it, and that if you go to therapy, you're mentally unwell, and the fact that you can't solve your own problems is an issue. I'm someone, I'm a coach, and even as a coach, I still go to therapy. Even when nothing is necessarily going wrong in my life, I see therapy, and I forgot what the actress's name is, but she talks about therapy as a type of fitness practice, just like how you would have a personal trainer on how to look physically your best. Therapy is like having that mental, emotional trainer to help you feel and make decisions for the best. I think that is the best analogy and best way to put it. And I feel like a lot of people try to justify not going to therapy because of the stigma attached. But then also, I've heard a lot of friends and family members say, well, I don't really need therapy because I'm very self-aware already, and I'm able to rationalize, the situations that I go through. And that's great. I used to be the same way. I still am. I tend to think I'm really self-aware. And if anything, therapy's made me even more self-aware and able to better reason and rationalize the things that I do and why I do the things that I do. I think that's the biggest piece. A lot of people feel like, well, I know why I'm doing it. But there's a difference between knowing and understanding why you do something and then taking the necessary steps to do better and to be better. And I think that's the discrepancy. There's a difference between knowing okay, I need to stop overspending when it comes to my finances versus actually not overspending. And I think that's the biggest gap that we all face. And so, it's not about knowing it all and feeling like, well, I can reason and rationalize. It's like, even though you reason and rationalize, is your life still where you want it to be? And if not, and if you realize there's still this gap, I think that's where therapy can become very essential, and it could be a very useful tool and resource to lean on to sort of get you over that hump that you otherwise maybe couldn't do yourself, right? Especially when we talk about the limiting beliefs, fears. Maybe you've had a long string of failed dating attempts. Maybe you've experienced significant amounts of trauma, childhood trauma, rape, violence, loss, losing someone at a young age. These are all traumas that compound over time, can really cripple us in certain areas of our life and prevent us from moving forward and finding the fulfillment that we need. And sometimes we don't see it until hindsight. And so, it's not your responsibility to do all the detective work yourself. You can find others to help you in that and to get to the root of some of these issues and these blocks and eventually work through them. So my experiences with therapy, I've done five different types of therapy, I guess. One is talk therapy, and that is essentially just showing up, talking about the things that are going wrong in your life or things that you're discontent with, and trying to, having someone sort of bounce back ideas as to why you may be in this situation and what that would look like to get out of it. And talk therapy can be very beneficial for those types of people who maybe don't reason, don't reflect. If you're someone who doesn't take the time to sit and reflect as to why your life is the way that it is, talk therapy will be great because the therapist will address certain things to you through asking very carefully worded questions as to why you may be responding to a situation in the way that you are, or why you may react a certain way to a situation, and get you to kind of think like, oh wow, I did XYZ and that's probably because of XYZ. Talk therapy is great for that, bringing things to the surface, bringing things from your subconscious to the conscious so that you are now aware of it. Most people, like I said, feel like they're able to do that themselves. Great. But the next part of that is to actually take steps and to finally remove that resistance to you actually doing the thing that you want to do and seeing the results that you want to see. So outside of talk therapy, and I only recognized this until I started to do deeper work through these other therapeutic models, right? Another one would be hypnotherapy. Hypnotherapy uses sort of like a guided visualization and meditation to tap into your subconscious and to heal those fragile parts. It's a very unique situation. I think when people think hypnotherapy, they're thinking like, the therapist puts you into a type of relaxed state where you're no longer in your body, you're no longer conscious of what you're doing, and they're gonna tell you to bark like a dog, and you're gonna start barking like a dog, or maybe they're gonna mind control you, and you'll never ever be, sort of like a Get Out sort of situation where someone's in your head and you're not able to control any of your functions or the way that you think and the way that you want to respond and behave, and that is not true. You have full control over your body and your functions, so that does not happen. It's just a very suggestive and subtle way of tapping into your subconscious and healing those fragmented parts that you want a therapist to heal. So I've done hypnotherapy, and that was a very good experience. I don't feel like I did it long enough to see the results that I wanted to, but I'm pretty sure that with the other forms of therapy, it compounded. So I don't know if it's something I would do again, but it was helpful at the time for when I needed it. But I feel like I still needed something a bit more, how would I say it? Something a bit more integrated, or just alternative ways of tapping into the subconscious outside of that modality and that method. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, is another one that I did, and that one I think was the best type of therapy that I've done so far, where I've seen the results in such a short amount of time. I believe I did 12 weeks of cognitive behavioral therapy with a therapist. She was kind of pricey, but it was to work on a specific trauma that I went through with a specific past relationship, and literally moving forward after going to see her was no longer triggered. I knew why it was being triggered, but I didn't know how to release that trauma response in the body, because every time I would be reminded of the situation, my body would shut down. And so I went to her to help me to release that stagnant, that stuck energy that was causing so much pain and resistance, so that if I was put in that situation again, I wouldn't respond as viscerally. And it wouldn't have as much of an emotional effect on me. And so CBT with that specific therapist was really, really, really good. Towards the end of it, she was kind of like, you don't really need me anymore, which I hated because I love therapy. Not to the point where I love to have a problem just so I can go to therapy, but I really enjoyed the process of peeling back the layers and getting to the root of my wounds and healing them. It's lifetime work. So she was really great. And EMDR is the last form of therapy that I did last year. All of this is probably within the span of 5 years that I've been going to therapy or trying different therapeutic modalities. It hasn't been consistent. It's kind of on and off. I choose when to go for specific situations. The EMDR that I did last year was more so to deal with my childhood trauma, because I've never really gone to therapy to deal with relationships, because I'm not that great with that. I'm probably great with money and forming friendships and work and my career. I'm very ambitious, but whenever it came to my love life, it was never, I always felt inadequate. I wasn't having the type of experiences that I wanted to. And especially growing up in a childhood home that didn't give me the best representation of healthy love, healthy Black love, it was very hard for me in my adulthood to form and get an idea of what a healthy love looks like outside of comparing myself to friends and their relationships, or media, or society's expectations of what it should look like. And so EMDR is, I would say, the next level up from CBT and a great alternative to talk therapy. All these other therapies that I've mentioned outside of talk therapy are a lot more somatic. They're a lot more trauma-based and trauma-informed, which is, I think, more effective than just talking about your problems, because now we're not just talking, we're getting to the root of it, and we're using certain tools outside of talking to rub down to the core of the wound and heal it from there. And a lot of it is very subconscious. You don't really consciously have to know that the work is being done. And in hindsight, after you're done with those therapeutic models, you will realize, like, wow, that therapeutic model actually really did help me, because I'm no longer responding to life's events in the way that I probably would have in the past. So I got that a lot from CBT and EMDR. And so EMDR stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, and it is using bilateral movements or stimulation. So bilateral just means, like, you know, you can like move your eye to the left and the right, or you can tap on certain parts of the body. I'm actually certified when it comes to EFT tapping, so they use certain elements of that within EMDR. In doing this, you are reprogramming your emotional response center in the brain to not be triggered to certain events that may have traumatized you in the past, or certain behaviors that you have developed because of the way that you choose now to respond to certain traumatic experiences from the past. Trauma lives in the body, and I think as you become more aware of how your mental health also affects your physical health, you can see why EMDR is so effective. The process of tapping bilaterally on your body or moving your eye in a bilateral movement while recounting a traumatic experience, that is like the hardest part about EMDR, is that you really have to go back in detail. Sometimes about your past. Some therapists, if a therapist is really good, it's not really about recounting, but more so feeling the feelings that you had when you were in that traumatic moment and experience. You don't really have to share and voice and say and tell the story from beginning to end, but it's about tapping into the feeling of how you felt when that situation happened, because that is the emotion that is crippling you. And that is the emotion that we want to heal, right? The wound that we want to heal. So with EMDR, I've had EMDR sessions where literally I could feel the pain of my mother as I was in her womb because of the situation that she maybe was in. And to have that flashback and that visceral response was very triggering, but also very releasing at the same time. And, you know, you can have very vivid spiritual experiences while doing EMDR, because it's the fragmented parts of you that are now coming back, that are coming up to the surface. And intuitively, there are things that you maybe don't remember experiencing, but it comes back into memory, it comes back into your knowing in real time, and that can be incredibly heavy. So I always say EMDR is, if you are ready for something that is very invasive, but will be the most effective, EMDR is for you. I actually didn't finish my EMDR. I actually paused it halfway because of an issue I was having with my therapist, and it just didn't feel like it was in alignment anymore. So I'm really looking forward to completing my EMDR sessions in the future. So right now I'm not doing any type of therapy, but that EMDR was specifically for my childhood, specifically dealing with childhood stuff, because I've never gone to a therapist to deal with those inner child, those parts of me, the wounded parts of me that have stemmed way, way back from childhood. I've done other work myself, and, you know, as a coach, and I've done a lot of online courses and have been in communities where we discuss these things and heal these parts. And I have lots of tools and resources that I lean on, right? My EFT tapping, my meditation, breath work, journaling. There's a lot of personal development work that I have done over the years to get myself to where I am today, but I've never have done it in a therapeutic setting. And so that is one thing that I still kind of want to like tick off my bucket list to go and to kind of just nip those final limiting beliefs in the butt, the things that are still so embedded and weaved into my being because they were there from such a very long time. Those are going to be the hardest wounds to heal, right? It's not like it's fresh and it's ready. It's closer to the surface and it's easy to pick at. These are wounds that are deep. So that is sort of the different types of therapy that I've done. Every single different type of therapeutic model or approach I've done, it's been with a different therapist. And like I said, it spanned between 5 to 6 years ago is when I started to now, and on and off in between those years. And most of my therapy has been done online. The CBT that I did with my therapist at the time, that was during COVID, like 2021, I think, 2021 at the beginning of the year, and that spanned for 12 weeks. And that was really, really helpful. I really benefited from that. And then the EMDR was about 6 months, and that was last year while I was taking a gap year. And that was a perfect time to do it because I wasn't working. So I had all that time to sit and process and allow my body to process itself what it was uncovering and the feelings and the emotions that were coming up to the surface. I was able to better take care of myself and my health. I wasn't like having to worry about work and burning myself out in that aspect. I was able to fully be present in the experience and to really come with a sole intention to just heal. And so the benefits for me with going, and then there was one other type of therapy that I've done that I don't know how I forgot, but coaching, right? So I'm a coach myself. And so of course, if you're going to do CBT, EMDR, any of that, you want to make sure that you're doing it with someone who's certified or licensed. All the therapy that I've done, majority of it has been done with a licensed social worker or psychologist. But coaching is one of those fields where the person doesn't necessarily have to be licensed, which I think is fine because sometimes it's not about being licensed and being taught how to teach something. Sometimes you can teach yourself, and sometimes life experience is more than enough in order to be able to help support someone else. Sometimes it could just be accessibility. Some people don't have the money and the means to go to school to help someone within a specific area of their life, but that doesn't mean that they're not wise and knowledgeable on that subject. And so you kind of have to do that discernment whether you feel comfortable with that. But there are different types of coaches. There are coaches that can help you with your finances, with relationships and dating, with your business, with your health. I went to a dating and relationship coach, and that was a little bit, I think, after I finished CBT, and this was also during COVID, and that one was really helpful as well. We did a lot of personality tests and assessments and a lot of reflection as to okay, what are the patterns and the type of people that you're dating? That in tandem with some of the other therapy I was doing, and just continuing to educate myself by reading other relationship type books and listening to podcasts. Everything came together really well, and I feel like I was a bit more confident moving forward as to okay, here are the red flags that I need to heed to, pay attention to. Here's why I choose certain men and certain partners, and how can I go about it differently, right? And that really helped because I feel like after working with that dating coach, my dating experiences have always progressed and gotten better over time. I've never dated a guy and he treated me worse than the guy before. It's always been a progressive, but it still has never been, it was never where I wanted it to be until now, because I'm now in a healthy, loving relationship. And I mean, that could change, but as of right now, I feel really good where I'm at and being able to manifest the type of healthy, loving relationship I've always wanted. So that feels really good to me to know that I've done it. And if I need to do it again, I know how to do it again, and I know what to look for because I've already attracted it into my life. And so I find, over the years, all these compounding investments in my overall personal development growth and well-being has had some part to do with therapy. So overall, the benefits that you can see from therapy and that I've seen real quick is, emotional support. Sometimes you don't have anybody to talk to. Sometimes you do have people to talk to. I was the type of person, anytime a guy did something to me, I would run into my friends being yo, can you believe what this guy did? And I feel like a part of that as I've gotten older, maybe wasn't the best thing to do, because then your friends have to form an opinion about a guy that they probably never met. But, you know, your family members, your friends are also going to be biased, and they're going to side with you. And so I think it's great to have a person that you can go to that is unbiased. Your therapist really shouldn't know you by the first appointment. They should know nothing about you, right? So it's like, you know, they have to treat you as a client, not as a friend, not as a family member. And they are giving you sort of the outside in perspective, you know, like a friend and family member would do, but without as much judgment. And I think people can really appreciate that. Like, I'm not going to feel judged by my therapist for doing something or making a certain decision. Instead, my therapist is going to lead with curiosity and support and getting me to where I feel like I want to be. You know, versus a friend might make you feel stupid for running back to the guy, and or, you know, you may feel like, you know, you may start to compare yourself to other people. Like, you know, this person made this decision and it worked out a different way for them. Why not me? But with a therapist, you're not comparing. You don't really know much about their life either, if anything. So really, it's a clean slate. And I think it's just such a great safe space to curate and to have, because sometimes you just don't want to. It's like being able to talk into a void. You know, you don't have to feel judged or feel like this person's gonna run and tell someone else my problems. It's confidential, it's in this safe container, and I get to cry and have all these feelings and feel safe to have these feelings and bring them to the surface with this person that I am paying good money for, right? Because therapy is not cheap. So emotional support is the biggest thing for me. Just having an unbiased perspective and someone who really cares about my well-being and wants to help me create a roadmap for that. My mental health has, of course, improved. The resilience that is built by going through therapy, you know how to better manage life's challenges. Therapy really helps you to develop healthy coping mechanisms and strategies to manage these symptoms that you're feeling. And of course, you become more self-aware. That's like one of the biggest things that therapy can do for you. If you don't know why things are happening in your life for whatever reason, therapy will make it pretty clear why you are in the situation that you're in and how to get yourself out of that, right? It is not just pointing fingers and judging you. It is like, okay, this happened because of this. It may or may not have been your fault, but here's how we're gonna move forward. And because of that too, if you're better dealing with anxiety and depression and, you know, these stresses in your life, you will feel more at ease. You will feel more centered and grounded in your everyday and how you're able to make decisions. You are not going to allow life to happen to you, right? You are going to create the life that you love. And that is really my motto. That is my whole YouTube channel. It's all about creating the life you love, taking accountability for how you are going to play the leading role in your life, right? It's your life. You have one life to live in this body. You may have more lifetimes to go, but you're not ever going to have this body again. And you're not ever going to be the same type of individual again. So embrace it, love all of who you are, and love life. Be in love with life, as hard as it may be, and the challenges that arise and come. At the end of the day, it's all a beautiful journey that we all get to experience, and we should be grateful for that, right? Really grateful for that. So, of course, I would say therapy, the benefits of it is that whatever life area that you're trying to work on, any goals that you're trying to work on within those different life areas is most likely going to improve. So if you're going to therapy for the sole purpose of feeling more satisfied in your work, feeling like you are better able to manage your anxiety, having better dating and relationship experiences, investing in therapy should reap you the results faster than you would otherwise do it on your own. Because when you're trying to do things on your own, there's nothing wrong with trying to do things on your own and trying to figure it out on your own. But what I've learned over time is that I'm going to be making way more mistakes if I do it on my own versus having someone support me and help me through the journey. Someone that's been there before and has gone through it. I won't have to go through as many mistakes because I'm learning from somebody else, right? I'm learning from the patterns that other people have had to work through, so that I don't have to develop those same patterns, or I can nip that pattern in the butt even faster. And so I've been a strong proponent and encouraging clients and people to go seek therapy, find a coach to help you work towards these goals. It's really important. I think when you have that one-on-one, especially one-on-one accountability, group work is great too, but I think when you have that one-on-one accountability, you have that mentor that's focused on you and only you, and able to just help be more hands-on in the ability to find effective relief based on whatever situation you're in. I think that's the best way to move forward and to get towards your goals and to find success within a faster time frame. Especially if we're working on time, therapy is it. Therapy is for you. So yeah, I hope that was very helpful. I kind of just wanted to share my story. It's not really like I'm here to just be very instructive. I hope it didn't come off as that. I really just wanted to share with you why I've gone to therapy and why it was so helpful and beneficial for me, in hopes that it can be beneficial for you. I honestly think that we all should go to therapy. None of us are ever going to be 100%, right? It's impossible. We're all going to have our flaws. We're always going to have things that we need to work on. Nobody is exempt. You can never be on your high horse and say, I'm too good for therapy. Anyone that comes off like that, to me, I think it's a lie. They're lying to themselves, because there is no way that you're going to sit here and tell me that there is not a problem that's happening in your life, or there is a discontentment that you have with yourself and how that shows up in your life, that you don't need extra support on. We all need support. We all need a lending hand. I mean, it may look different, whether it's you go to therapy, maybe you just rely on certain tools and resources. But I really wish that a part of our medical system, there was some sort of routine check-in when it comes to our mental health. Just like we go to a dentist every couple months to get our teeth cleaned, I feel like there has to be a regimen, some kind of practice when it comes to our health, where we also regularly check in with our mental health, with our doctors, with licensed experts. And hopefully that's something that we can curate as a society, because the mental health dilemma and issue in this country, in this world, is getting worse. More and more people are suffering from anxiety. More and more people are suffering from depression, and a lot of people still don't have the resources in order to work it through. I mean, you can go on medication. Sometimes medication isn't the best decision for everyone. Sometimes it can make your symptoms worse. And so I think therapy, and figuring out the right type of therapy too, because you can go to talk therapy and it may not help, but that's because it's not the right type of therapy that you need. And so I think, doing more research, educating people about taking care of their mental health, removing the stigma around seeking therapy. I just love to see people really take life by the reins, and just love to see people wanting better for themselves and wanting more. And I think therapy is a great avenue and pathway towards being able to do that. Having someone hold your hands, having someone be your hype woman or your hype man, in this journey called life. And you may not need to be in therapy 24/7 for the rest of your life, but I think it's great to have moments where you check in with yourself and check in with a therapist, and maybe sometimes not even waiting for problems to happen, There's so many times where I'm like, oh, I don't need therapy right now. And then I would start dating a guy, and all these triggers would come up, and I'm like, I wish I had a therapist right now. And so sometimes I always remind myself, you don't need to be in the thick of it to go searching for one. Sometimes it's about being proactive and, investing in these things as a way to better overall your health and your well-being for the long term, right? Not just the short term, not just a short-term fix, but for the long term. And so I hope that sharing my story and my experiences with you as to the type of therapies that I've done and why I decided to do them is helpful, and that maybe just encourages you to push a bit beyond your comfort zone and do the necessary, although it may be scary, and get the help that you deserve and get the support and love and care that comes with therapy. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. please in the comments below let me know what other topics you actually also want me to talk about and cover in relationship to our finances, our well-being, and business, all in efforts to create the life that we love, okay? Also, don't forget to sign up for my mailing list. I have bi-weekly newsletters every other Wednesday, so stay tuned for that by being on the mailing list, being the first to know when exciting things are happening in my world. And thank you, love you all so much. See you in the next video. Bye.